SJR 8 deals with the resolution granting, well, I'm going to read the title, but it describes the bill quite accurately, granting legislative approval for the sale or long-term lease of Utah State Developmental Center land. And this, the title doesn't say and water rights too, but really the focus is on the land. So in 1922, then Utah Governor Dern gave a 5-member board the task of selecting one location out of 25 states for some disabled members of our society. American Fork City was selected and the Utah State Training School was begun. Initially, there were 750 acres set aside and purchased over time to be used by the intellectually disabled. Over the years, this population is now living at the Utah State Developmental Center. And the population's grown and it's shrunk over time, but the mission for caring for the most challenging and complex people in the state has stayed the same. At the peak, I think there were over 1,000 people living at the Utah State Developmental Center. But with the help of the Division of Services for People with Disabilities, other locations in the community and around the state have made alternate homes available. And people have a choice, but the USDC, or Utah State Developmental Center, is still the primary care center for these people in the state of Utah. Right now, there's still 450 acres of that original parcel that's under the control of the state. What this resolution deals with is 143 acres immediately to the north of the Developmental Center campus to be either developed or leased. What this does, though, let me say this first. In 2012, there was a master long-range plan put in place, and this plan is actually available on the Utah State Developmental Center website. But after considerable debate, the legislature was asked permission to sell or lease some of this land. Initially, it was, I believe, only 7 acres of the 143. No developer in the state, at least, showed interest developing a parcel that small. So the governing board of the Utah State Developmental Center, who guides the direction of the campus, is asking the legislature, and this bill authorizes them, to expand the process and approve the sale or lease of the entire 143 acres. An RFP will be released following this bill's okay, and the project, at least the process to look at developmental plans, can begin. This gives the Developmental Center Board the approval to begin that development process. There is no named developer because no RFP has been issued yet. The goal, though, is to provide long-term cash flow back to the Developmental Center and Division of Services for People with Disabilities, which, by the way, is what the amendment did. It added the language of not just having these proceeds go to the Developmental Center, but also going to the Division of Services for People with Disabilities. We believe, or I believe, that the Developmental Center is an integral part of the Division of Services for People with Disabilities, and we look forward to the Developmental Center being able to turn this parcel into a funding source, long-term funding source for their operations and for the entire department's or division's operations. That's my summary.
Thank you, Senator. Discussion on the motion. I see Senator Dayton, and then on deck is Senator Stevenson. Senator Dayton.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I think that Senator Hemmert and I both share a desire for the people, the residents of the Developmental Center, to be well taken care of. We do differ slightly, however, on how it should be done. I'm very concerned about the word sale in this. I'm totally in favor of saying long-term lease, but not sale, and let me tell you why. It was, as he said, over 400 and some acres in 1929, and the role has changed, but also the population around there has changed, and also the personnel in the agencies have changed, and on occasion we've had people on the agencies whose goal it has been to totally shut down the Developmental Center and force all those people out in the community. Let me tell you what's happened to some of that land. That Developmental Center started to be out away from everywhere. Cities have built up around it. Then in 1977, Cedar Hills built up around it. Highland City, the same year, built around it and pushed in, encroaching on the land. The next thing that happened, well, even before that, in 1958, 150 acres of that land was sold to create Alpine Country Club golf course. 150 acres. Of the money generated from the sale of that land, none of it went to the Developmental Center, went to balance the state budget. Then, in 1971, another 150 acres of that land that was set aside specifically for these special needs people was sold for another golf course. Of the money generated for the sale of that land, none of it went to the Developmental Center. Lone Peak High School, 1997, another 400 acres of that land was sold. I'm sorry, it wasn't 400 acres. I'm saying that. That was incorrect. 40 acres of that was sold for Lone Peak High School. Of the money generated from that land, none of it went to the Developmental Center. So now we're talking about selling or leasing the land to generate funds for the Developmental Center. There is no history of benefiting the people at the Developmental Center with the sale of the lands. Last year we made a plan to lease some long-term lease, some of the land to generate ongoing funds. It was a unanimous vote here in the Senate, as I recall, and the bill sponsor is correct. There wasn't a developer that was willing to take that small of an amount. So we need to increase the numbers of acres that we can lease, but not sell. I would make a motion that we take out 8 words of this bill, and it's wherever it says sale or, so that it remains being leased, because this is the very last piece of land that can be sold or benefit these people, and we have put into place over the years, over and over, a way to create a funding source so that we can have lease money go to the Developmental Center and to other people who are served by the Services with Disabilities. But if the same thing happens with this as with the sale of the land for the Alpine Golf Course, the Fox Hollow Golf Course, Lone Peak High School, none of those sales are generating any money right now for the Developmental Center. There is no history of selling the land that benefits these people with disabilities. So I would make the motion that we take those 8 words out, sell or, where I'm circled them wherever they appear, and I can point out the line numbers if you would like, and support the long-term lease, for which I am very supportive.
I think there was a motion in there somewhere. Could you restate the motion, specifically the line numbers and the words you're deleting?
The line numbers would be to take out the word sale or in the title, sell or in line 13, sell or in line 59, sell on line 61 and put lease, and sale in line 66 and put lease. So we're taking out 8 words and inserting 2, which I think fits into our ability to do verbal amendments.
Okay. I'll take that as an appropriate motion. Discussion to the motion to amend. Let me go first to Senator Hemmert. Senator Hemmert.
So I appreciate, as Senator Dayton mentioned, she and I are aligned on wanting to protect the Developmental Center. We do differ, though, on the outcome here, but perhaps not totally. I'm not opposed to a long-term lease if it is what makes the most economic sense with this land. And so I would resist this motion to remove the word sell because it removes the option of selling the land. And I am more in favor of giving the Developmental Center Board the ability to make the best decision based on a long-term economic outlook and based on the long-term economic impact to both the center and to the division in general. And I just don't think we should be tying the hands and putting artificial handcuffs on this development process. And I think we should just get the best bang for buck with the land that's available.
Thank you, Senator. To the motion to amend, striking the words sale or the concept of sale as an option from this resolution, Senator Anderegg.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I actually rise to reject the proposed motion. This land has been there quite some time. And the notion that we haven't properly taken care, and in some instances I would agree we haven't properly taken care, but what was stated was land was sold off here, land was sold off there, none of it ever benefited. But what about all the other times we have provided resources to the developmental center? And I'm not speaking from the standpoint of just, hey, let's go develop all the land we possibly can. I have constituents who have children in the developmental center. And the sale of the land that we're talking about here is not going to affect the developmental center and its ability to even expand from its current resources. And I will be the first one to say, I have gone to the developmental center and done yard work and cleaned up and actually spent time up there doing service hours on multiple occasions. I think it's arbitrary to pull out sale when it's land that has been locked up for years, years, and years, especially when there are needs of transportation in the county, in Utah County, where a portion of the land needs to be accessed to service arteries for transportation across this land. I am not opposed to leasing, but I don't want to remove all the tools in our tool bag simply because we feel like we're shortchanging those that are less fortunate. The truth is, we are not. In even the previous sales of this, yes, they went into the general fund coffers, but ultimately, did the state provide services? Absolutely we did. And we continue to do so. In fact, there was a bill last year that was passed to help do some renovations through the IGG committee to do renovations up at the developmental center. So I reject this notion that they haven't gotten anything. It's simply not true. So I reject this motion. I would urge you to reject it.
Thank you. Senator Stevenson, you were up to speak on the bill. Did you want to speak to the motion to amend? Okay. Next up on the motion to amend, Senator DeBackus.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. As a 17-year-old, when I arrived at BYU, I didn't know anybody. My first kind of way to mix around and meet people was to volunteer for the training school. So every Monday night we would go down to the training school. That was many, many years ago. And I am a little bit chagrined to hear Senator Dayton's characterization of what's happened to the property. I like the idea of keeping a revenue flow for those amazing citizens that demand and need our protection more than most. Once we sell it off, as is evidenced by what's happened in the past, the money's gone. I did a little quick math. It's estimated by the fiscal analyst to bring in $27 million, and that means it's $200,000 an acre. I just wonder over the next 50 or 75 years if we wouldn't do better with those special citizens if we didn't sell it off, if we took that possibility away and just made the best leasing deal we can. I suspect that that would be the best thing, and I support the amendment.
Thank you. To the motion to amend. Seeing no further discussion, I'll place the motion. All in favor of the motion to amend?
Do I get to sum?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were having a sidebar.
I was, but I can still sum.
Okay. Senator Dayton for summation on the motion to amend.
Thank you. I would like to speak to some of the comments that were made about this land. It was referenced as locked up. I take umbrage with that. This land was not locked up. This land has been preserved. This land was dedicated for these citizens at the Developmental Center by the legislature, the American Fork Lions Club, and the General Relief Society of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in 1929 when they created the Developmental Center. It has been sold off incrementally, as I mentioned, to create 2 golf courses and land for a high school. And think what would happen now if that land had been leased instead, and every year we were getting money for the Developmental Center from the lease of that land, even a small lease. This land has not been locked up. It has been preserved, and it has been properly taken care of. Yes, there are a lot of people that donate time and hours out there. And yes, we have given money to the Developmental Center because every year for the last 20 years I have fought for funding for the Developmental Center to have a dental clinic, to have funding for the Ash Building. It is embarrassing to me that as crucial as the care of these people are out there, we are paying the workers out there less than $12 an hour. We need to be generating funds for that. For the Developmental Center, they need their sidewalks and their buildings upgraded. We need to raise the amount of money that we pay the workers. And I appreciate the fact that there are a lot of us that want to preserve that. The question here is, do we want to sell it all off and hope that we generate some money, or sell part of it off, or do we want to lease it, preserve what has been left to generate funds? The governing board was mentioned. The governing board in their January meeting agreed to the sell or lease because they were told initially that to get a road across, they had to sell land for the road. If you'll notice in their May meetings, they agreed that they were told by MAG that they could lease land for a road, and so we don't need to sell any of this to develop it or to do a road. I'm not speaking against the road or against development. I'm just speaking urgently to try to preserve some option for a constant funding flow for the Developmental Center. So I would hope that you would be in support of the amendment and then for the bill if it's amended.
Does that conclude your summation?
It does.
Thank you. Now, to the motion to amend, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Division.
I haven't ruled on how it, the outcome. I'll rule it fails. Now, Senator Dayton.
Division.
Division has been called. If we'll have Senator stand. Okay. All those in favor of the motion to amend, please stand. Okay. All those opposed, please stand. The motion passes 12 to 10. The bill is amended. Senator Hemmert.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. The amended bill allows that, well, I've already read, I guess, on the bill. I don't really have anything else to say.
Okay,
it only allows for...
Let me go to Senator Davis. We have additional discussion now on the bill. Senator Davis.
President, I take a look at this bill, and I guess it's a companion bill or a mirrored bill or whatever, SJR 7, which has just been assigned to the Transportation Committee. Wondering what the differences between these two bills are.
Is that
a question to the sponsor.
Will the sponsor yield?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a response to the question?
Absolutely. So this bill deals with the development of the 143 acres in aggregate and authorizing the boards to request proposals to develop that land, now as amended, only under a long-term lease scenario. The other bill, the House bill, deals with the installation of the road specifically and only deals with the road, and that's the difference.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Senator Davis?
I didn't quite understand that last.
Okay, so apparently, the House resolution deals with the road specifically and limited to the road. This deals with the 140-some acres and leasing now with the amendment taking out the sale.
So is that property for the developer of the road? Is that included in the 143, or is that separate acreage that has to be developed?
It is inclusive, it is inside.
Why are we debating a bill that's not for us?
Because it's a question.
The point of order concerning we're not debating a bill that's not before us. We're trying to determine what the difference between the bills are. I think it's been answered, Senator Davis.
Thank you. My question.
These are not identical pieces of legislation. They approach apparently the same subject matter from a little different perspective. So if that bill comes out of committee, we'll deal with that.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if I might continue.
Yeah, no, continue.
My question, and I think it's been answered, that it deals with the road that's within that acreage. So that's fine. We'll discuss that if and when it gets here. And it was just my concern that we're addressing two identical bills, one that we amended and another bill similar or alike or the same would be back before us to be argued again, and whichever bill prevailed would be there, whether Senator Dayton's motion passed on the second bill or not. I mean, I'm just trying to get that clarification.
I'll rule that they're not the same legislation. One deals specifically with the road. It may be a subset of the other, but there are different issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
further discussion on the bill. Senator Davis.
Thank you. It seems I have the floor, Mr. President. I appreciate that. Over the number of years that I've been here, since I was in the House, with Senator Dayton, we were both in the House together, and looking at these issues of this land, it's been under attack to be sold for every kind of development there is. We have to remember that this property was dedicated back in 1929 to serve the needs of individuals with severe disabilities. And to sell this land off because every developer wants that land, it's developable, it's loving land, if you will, it's got great value to it, and for us to get rid of that and do away with the idea of the trust that was placed in 1929, that land would be held in perpetuity for the advantage of those children and adults over time, I think is an applaudable thing of our previous legislature, and I think we owe them and the idea behind this to preserve this land as long as we can. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Davis. Further discussion now on the resolution as amended. Senator Stevenson.
Yes, I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask the sponsor.
He's yielded, so go ahead.
First of all, what is the land value, or what has brought this to a focal point? Development around it or something else?
Senator Hammert.
So this land's been talked about getting developed for years. And we approved a developmental proposal in this body a few years ago, and no one stepped forward to develop the 7 acres. And so now the concept is, well, let's develop the entire 143. I'm not suggesting it's locked up, but it is the largest, one of the largest undeveloped pieces of property in the entire northeastern Utah County. And it is currently leased to a farmer, and it certainly is not being used to its best economic highest best use at this point in time, and the board wants to develop it, and that's really, this bill is being brought forth at the request of the Developmental Center Board.
And my other question would be, is if we have this parcel of property, if we had it was originally, did you say 440 acres?
It was originally, give me a second, 750 acres set aside.
750.
There's still 450 under state control of that original 750.
If I might comment on that, Mr. Speaker. Pro Tem. Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, Pro Tem.
I'm sorry.
I'm saying if I might comment on that.
Oh.
I would like everyone to know we're dealing with approximately the same size acreage at the state prison currently. And we're looking at a different plan to develop that property. Now, I realize this isn't that bill, but sometimes these parcels of property are the communities involved. I assume there is one or more communities that could provide service to this parcel of property.
Senator Hemmert?
Yes. So right now, American Fork City is providing services to both the Developmental Center and the high school that is actually located in Highland, and it would be relatively easy for them to provide services to this new parcel. Highland City also could provide services to this parcel, but my understanding, and this may be mistaken, but it is my understanding, it would cost them significantly more to install the services.
My last question is there one of these communities that has a more vested right through a boundary declaration in this property? And are they helping drive this process?
I don't know that the cities are. The cities certainly would, I think, I can't speak for them, but no, the cities are not driving this process. The community is extremely interested in a road, which, as we discussed, is a separate bill, but the Developmental Center is really the organization driving this process.
And just one other then, will the price of by putting in the road, you would add additional services or additional value to the property? Is that proper to say?
Presumably, but I wouldn't presume, I guess, potentially. I don't know for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Buxton.
I stood as the shield of this property for 6 years as the director of the DFCM. There wasn't another piece of property in the state of Utah that was sought after as
Can you
much as
pull
this.
your mic up a little bit?
Thank you. I'm concerned what we just did. I support Margaret in protecting the Developmental Center. But I was under the impression, and I think the rules read like a first right of refusal, when that property was donated to the state, it was to be used for the betterment and the furthering of the Developmental Center and those who housed there. And now to hear that we've sold off large pieces of property and it went into the general fund perplexes me a little, because that money probably should have gone into a fund or a foundation for that property. And I think the way it reads, if I'm not mistaken, and I may be, not as an attorney, but I believe that it says it should go into a foundation that then those funds would be used to keep and to return back into the support of that Developmental Center. And we have plenty of, we're working on another issue this year there for the water. We won't discuss that now, but there's water rights, there's property, there's lots of things that go with this property that need to be watched after carefully because they have great value. And that value is supposed to be returned to the Developmental Center for the betterment and the encouragement and the running of that center.
Thank you, Senator. To the resolution. Seeing no further lights, Senator Hemmert for summation and a motion.
Summation is, this is to approve a long-term lease now for the Developmental Center land. I think we've just handicapped the ultimate outcome of that process, but I still move that this bill be read for a third time.
Motion is, shall SJR 8 as amended by the floor amendment, removing the sale portion of it, be read for a third time? Roll call vote.
Senators Adams, Andrick, Bramble,
Aye.
Buxton,
Senator Buxton.
I'm going to vote no on this.
Christensen.
We're in the middle of a vote. I've just been advised by the circle that the amendment exceeded our rules. So we need to, well, we could look at it on third. I'm going to rule that.
Should we circle it?
Yes, I would ask a
motion to circle the bill.
I'd ask that you withdraw your motion, even though we're in the middle of a vote. The chair was just advised that it was over 10 words.
I withdraw my motion to read this a third time and move to circle the bill.
Motion is to circle SJR 10, and it will not be amended because we have the rule that it requires 10 words. It looks like, Leslie just asked me to clarify the amendment, it looks like we exceed those 10 words. Therefore, the motion is to circle the bill, and we'll come back with the amendment. All in favor of the motion to circle, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Senators, forgive me for my being a rookie up here. I relied on that the amendment was a proper amendment. I apologize. That's my fault, not the sponsor or the maker of the amendment. Senator Hemmert.
Motion to encircle first substitute Senate Bill 73.
Motion is to encircle first substitute Senate Bill 73. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait, excuse me. Senator Davis, you were trying to get my attention.
Thank you. Just a point of order. At one time, and I haven't seen the rule change, but deletions were not counted because you're removing words, not adding words in amendments.
Because of the question on the amendment, and we had not suspended the rule, I believe the amendment is 10 words.
But we have allowed, previously, we have always not counted, if I might, we have not counted words deleted, only words added. And I'm trying to figure out where in our rules that we count deleted words as words added to the bill.
Senator, there are two problems. One is the number of words. The second is every place where the word sale appeared was not in the motion to amend.
I give you that one. I'm just trying to get a clarification on deletion. The deletion of words has always been dealt with on the floor.
I am ruling that the rule was that the motion to amend was not consistent with our rules for two reasons. Number one, it didn't include everywhere that we would need to, when we add all of the words where the word sale appears, it exceeds the 10 words, and the motion was not clear on where all the words referencing sale occurred. So I believe it would be better to leave it circled, come back to it, and kind of regroup so we make certain that we're complying with the rules.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that explanation. I agree with you on the words sales should have been removed in that amendment as well. I agree with that point. And I think we need a clarification on the rule.
Let me go to our rules, Chair. On the Senator Henderson.
So the rule states that a senator may verbally propose an amendment to a piece of legislation if the amendment contains 10 words or fewer. Senator shall ensure that a proposed amendment containing more than 10 words is printed and distributed to the Secretary of the Senate and to all senators before the amendment is proposed. So it doesn't say deleting or adding, it just says 10 words in the amendment.
So does that sustain the ruling from the chair?
Yes, and from what I understand, the presiding officer has discretion, even if it is within 10 words, if it's a complicated amendment, to request that that amendment be made in writing.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I want to make certain that what we do, that we have absolute transparency and clarity. We've had this issue. We had an issue that in a committee that you and I serve on where we thought we had substituted a bill. We unanimously passed the bill. We brought it back to the committee to make certain that everything was done according to our rules. This fits that criteria on 2 points, unless there's a challenge to the ruling.
Right, and I wasn't challenging. It was just the explanation. And procedures in the past has always been that the deletion of words never counted as writing. If now it is your opinion as a president that it should have been in writing, that's fine. But if I understand your rule or your ruling is the fact that it was inappropriate motion because we did not delete all the word sales in there that should have been.
Specifically, I believe the amendment was not proper for 2 reasons. Number one, when Leslie pointed out everywhere where the word sale had to be changed, that exceeded 10. And second, the motion was not clear that it included everywhere where the word sale or the reference to a sale appeared. So on those 2 bases, I believe it was appropriate to interrupt the vote, circle the bill, and let's bring it back at the appropriate time.